Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, here we go. I'm bringing you another special guest today. Today I'm getting to talk to Anna Marie Prim. Anna Marie is the director of HR for HFS, and she's also the current president for Hill Country HR Management Association. And it's so good to have you on the show. Hey, Anna Marie, how you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. And I always like to reflect, like when we met, and when guests have come into my path, and for you, we met through Texas SHRM. And I was just in New Braunfels just not too long ago. I got to speak to kick off your event to kick off 2025. What'd you think about that? Like it looked like there was a full house. What'd you think about that event?
It was a full house. It was so energetic. You were the perfect person to launch us into 2025. Our theme for 2025 was Elevate HR.
Mm.
And boy, did we feel elevated when we left that meeting.
I love that. I love the theme because it kind of like brings, like it makes everybody starts marching to the same beat. Everybody's moving the same direction. And what I loved about that event is you also, like you went to the extra degree where you created this board that said Elevate HR. And I believe you were having members sign that. Talk about that for a second, because I thought that was very impressive.
Right. In HR, it's normal for us to elevate everyone around us
Mm.
and promote them, but it's hard for us to elevate ourselves
Mm.
and get an opportunity to elevate each other. We're just so focused on our employees and our workplace. And so on the board, it says elevating HR together. So we are making sure in 2025 that we focus on elevating each other together to make sure we're lifting each other up and making that a focus. So the board is a way to sign a pledge to say we're going to elevate each other this
I
year.
love that. And you have a terrific board. I've actually had one of your former presidents on, Mitha Vasquez, has
Yes.
been on the show, of course. And I loved working with Carol. She made it, like I always talked about, creating a five-star experience. She was fantastic. And of course, got to meet Artie through our Texas SHRM ambassador. So, I mean, it takes a team, and you got a great team in New Braunfels. And yeah, it was a pretty magical day. I really am honored to be part of that. Hey, for those who don't know HFS, I was curious if you wanted to share a brief highlight about HFS and how you serve your customers.
Sure. HFS is a fantastic company based out of San Antonio. It's a women-owned, veteran-owned
Hmm.
organization where we provide AE services and service contract support to build and construct or design medical facilities on military bases
Hmm.
and or veteran medical facilities, and that's in the US and also abroad.
And I'll put a link in the show notes if people want to learn more about HFS. And that's fantastic. I love that. Okay, so I really want to dive into all things leadership. But before we do that, I want to know the Anna Marie Prim story. Like, where did you grow up, and how in the world did you get into the role you're in today?
A long, fantastic journey that I've had. I was actually born in Dallas, Texas, so I'm a
Oh.
Texas native, but
Mm.
my journey's taken me to many different places and many different industries. So when I was born in Dallas, my parents divorced pretty young, so we relocated to Florida,
Mhm.
and I would come back and spend my summers in Texas. So Texas is very much a part of my roots. So I mostly grew up in Florida. And then at some point, my stepdad got a job overseas in Okinawa, Japan. And so we
Mm.
just packed up and moved to Okinawa, Japan. And that's really where my passion for serving the military and veterans came into play because I lived that life for a while. But also, Okinawa was my first leadership job. I had my first management job there at 17 years old. I managed a gift shop on Camp Foster. My boss was Mr. Kinjo. And so I learned how to become a manager at that place. And then it was time for me to go back to the States. So I left my family behind and went back to Florida to get my degree at Florida State. I got a
Hmm.
degree in business management and then went on to get my first job. But I had this great manager at Sears, which is where I worked through college.
Okay.
And Sears at the time had an amazing leadership program. It's Sears University. You could learn about leadership and management and take these courses. But also, I had a great HR manager who really mentored me while I was there. And she went on to manage a larger store in Pensacola, Florida. And so, of course, when I graduated, I wanted to follow her. It was a
Hmm.
larger store, and she was a great mentor, and I knew I could learn a lot from her. And so I got my first management job in the States at Sears in Pensacola, Florida, and I was the commission sales. So I was already commission sales in Panama City, but then became the commission sales manager in Pensacola, and
Okay.
then had several different management degrees while I was there. But also it was a great experience because that's when Sears went from department to conversion. And so I got to go through change management, learn a lot
Hmm.
about that process, got to meet a lot of corporate leaders, got to go to corporate in Chicago, and really it did a lot for my career and my desire to learn more about change management and also my comfort level in
Hmm.
change management. And then it was time for me to go back and get my master's degree. So I got my master's in organizational leadership.
I love it.
And it was there at Troy University where I had a professor who actually wrote the textbooks for colleges on HR.
Hmm.
And it was an incredible experience because she would actually take us to lunch when we had our Saturday classes, and she would mentor us one-on-one. In that way, we could ask her whatever questions, and
Hmm.
she would guide us. And so it was a great experience early on from me just wanting to be a manager, but being influenced by HR
Hmm.
leaders along the way. And after I graduated, I went on to become a director of finance and HR at an AE firm, also federal contractor.
Hmm.
And so I learned so much. I went through several audits early on, just as a part of being a federal contractor. And so I learned the finance, the marketing, the
Hmm.
HR, and the best practices, and which leads to great awards. And so that company was acquired by a company in Columbus, Ohio, and they wanted me in their corporate office. And I just left sunny Florida and moved to Columbus, Ohio. But it was a great experience because it was a large company, multi-states. I got to manage one of the offices in India and learn how to communicate with that office. And they're on a
Hmm.
different time zone, so it's definitely a unique experience. Just really got to learn about an AAP program and
Hmm.
more about OSHA and just things that would a larger employer would experience. And so blessed to have leadership that just trusted me so much and let me learn and
Hmm.
lead as much as I wanted to. And then after a while, it was time to find the sun again. And I found my way back to Texas, where I was HR manager at a manufacturing plant, had over 100 employees in different states, but it was also equipment sales. And so a blessing to be there during COVID. I learned so much about that experience, but also we had one of our most successful quarters
Hmm.
during COVID and zero cases of COVID. And so another great learning experience in my
Hmm.
journey.
I love that. You know, as I listen to your story, I mean, I'm in relocation. I'm like, okay, she's talking my language here. She's been Dallas to Florida to Japan, to back to Florida to Ohio and to Texas. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
There is so much here, Anna Marie. I just, first of all, go Knowles, Florida State.
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
Who
are you
knows?
kidding me? But I wrote down your first management job, the gift shop. It's amazing. Mr. Kenyo, I believe you mentioned. It's
Yes.
amazing, like how people can, and a lot of times I talk to people about mentors and they say, well, I didn't really have a formal mentor, but I had people that mentored me. It's amazing how much people can make a difference in on your journey, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Look, Mr. Kenyo, I mean, what was it about him? Was it just he was just he was patient, he was nice, he was challenging? What was it?
Everything that you mentioned, he was almost like a father figure in a
Mm,
sense, and that he looked at me as a whole person, but
mm,
also the trust. But this was his business, so he made sure he mentored me well as far as the processes and counting the money
mm,
and things like that. But when I say the whole person, and probably as a part of my safety journey, he was the first
mm,
person to teach me self-defense. And
mm.
so I had my own Mr. Miyagi and learned Okinawan karate through Mr. Kenjo.
Yeah.
And so, but really got to also use my creative side because it was a gift shop and we did
Mhm,
gift packages and designed those as well. And really, I find that in my HR manager role and volunteer
mm,
role, I like using the creative side of my brain.
mm.
And so it was there that I also learned I had a lot of those gifts.
Yeah, a lot of times they help. Great mentors help like pull out things, our gifts. You worked at a gift shop, but pulling out our gifts, like being creative. And did you learn? I was curious. Did you learn Japanese?
A little bit. So, just
Hmm.
like in the States, a part of the high school curriculum
Mm.
is to learn another language.
Okay.
So, we had a Japanese teacher that would come in. We had our Japanese textbooks and we
Hmm.
would learn the language just like you would in the States, except we
Yeah.
had the advantage where we could walk off base
Yeah.
and communicate with the locals and
Mm.
also the signage or the menus. And so we were constantly exposed to that. And fun fact, my mom taught English to locals, and so we always had locals in our home teaching them
Mm.
English or letting them experience an American Christmas in our home or a feast.
Wow.
And but yes, I got to learn Japanese, and I can still write a little, and I can still read
Hmm.
if someone's wearing a t-shirt, or sometimes understand what they're saying.
I love all of this. And then I wrote down something that, of course, so your journey has been incredible, but the one thing you said that I circled here and it said, leadership trusted me. As I think about it, I think like what was it? Because I think that's one of the things that we all have it's not necessarily a struggle, but we all want to create trust in the workplace. We just do, like with our employees, but we want to be trusted as well. What do you think it was that they trusted you to do what you needed to do to be a leader? I'm curious.
My character in a lot of
Mm,
ways
mm,
and my work ethic.
yeah.
And really, I was of the mindset that I'm coming into your business and I'm going to treat it as my own, as if it were my
Mhm.
own. And I showed that through my work. I was, at that gift shop, I was the sales manager. I was responsible
Mhm.
for getting the sales and making the revenue. And so you could see it in the numbers.
Yeah. I love that. I love all that because I think there's some people listening right now, probably taking some notes just like I am, and they're trying to figure out how to build trust with their colleagues or how to build trust with their team leaders or maybe even on their team. And I love how you talked about it, of course, character, work ethic. Sometimes it takes a while to build trust too, though, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm still learning as a person,
Mm,
even though it was extended greatly to me. I'm still learning,
mm.
but I'm learning to just set the course,
I love
set the
that.
vision, set the course, and then once they know where the ship is going,
Mm,
then trust them to help guide the ship. And but you have to allow them to make mistakes. It may not
mm,
be as perfect as you would have it if you were doing it yourself or if you outsourced, but you have to let them try and learn and make those small mistakes, or let there be a little bit of imperfection, because in 6 months, a year, 2 years, it's going to be at that perfection. It's a growing process. And looking back, my first time doing things, It probably wasn't perfect and probably made a lot of mistakes. And my nickname is Grace because
Hmm.
Anna means grace. And
Hmm.
that's because I'm well aware of my imperfections.
Yeah.
And so I like to extend that grace.
I tell people often I have a love-hate relationship with like failure. But I know that when I'm failing, it allows me to grow. And a lot of times, though, companies struggle, or when I say companies, leaders struggle with giving people the flexibility or them empower them to make mistakes. And I shared one time that's really how you build a great culture is allowing your team members to learn from mistakes. And someone mentioned one time though, but when it's a costly mistake, it's different. And I just have that mindset of, listen, we all learn through failure. Like when we're failing, that means we're growing and we're going to be better from it. Oh my goodness, I could get into this conversation all day long. This is so good. Hey, I want to know was there a moment though, like you said, hey, then I went to Sears and that's when I really kind of took off and I learned about change management. You got your master's degree, which I applaud you for that. Was there a moment when you said, you know what, I found my lane. This is the lane I want to be in. This is the lane I want to serve. This is my purpose. Any thoughts around that?
Early on, a lot of my experience was in business management and sales and accounting
Mm-hmm.
and HR and operations. And so I had a lot of good training and experience in the workplace in not just HR, but the whole business.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a location that I had worked at that I didn't mention, and it was a manufacturing plant. And that manufacturing plant went through an acquisition, name change, but also closed. And so I experienced a WARN Act and then again an acquisition with the AE firm in Florida to get me to Ohio. But in Ohio, I was given the opportunity to lead the acquisition team because that firm grew by acquisitions and mergers. And I was so excited to take that on because one, I understood the whole picture, or I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I did
Mm-hmm.
when I understood the accounting software and the HR policies and the timelines for things, and then the commercial insurance. But I also understood what it was like as an employee to go through those
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And so I felt like I could come into those situations and present in a way that made the situation as easy and smooth as possible by good planning, but also bringing the humanity to it as well. So I would say that was definitely my aha moment.
I love that. And as you were sharing that, you said it's not just HR, it's the business. And it took me back to when I got my HR certification and the facilitator that was running the class stood up there. And the very first thing she said is the most important thing about this whole process is you got to know the business. You've got to know the business. And I'm just curious, like, did that just like come to you like, hey, I'm going to learn all these different pieces of the business? Or did you just look up and you're like, oh, I've been through all these areas. Now I see how it fits? Because I feel like there's some listeners right now that are really good in their area, but they need to expand. They need to know the business, the bigger picture, to have those bigger conversations with leaders. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, just going through the process. I think I allowed myself to go through the process, take the opportunities that came. But I also feel like having those meetings or those conversations where you learn about what other departments
Hmm.
do and what their processes are to see how your department and their department and other departments can work well together for the overall organizational goals because otherwise, you're just focused on your department and your role, but what you do impacts another department and the organization overall, and you could miss something. And so it's good to have those conversations.
Yeah, that's so good. I love all that. So I wrote down three letters, YES. You got to
Yeah.
say yes. say yes if someone asks you to, collaborate or to learn about different parts of the business. I think that's just going to make you better. Hey, so I'm curious, what do you like? Okay, so you've been in several different areas of the business, from sales to HR, organizational development, and talent acquisition, all of it. What do you enjoy most?
Well, I always say I like the number side of HR, and it was those past experiences that brought me to that moment.
Hmm.
But of course, I love people, and that's why I'm in HR. But it's really the challenge of the numbers,
Hmm.
and you can improve benefits and lower risk, but also save the organization money.
Hmm.
And so I like those challenges of doing those things. And so that's why I say I like the numbers side of HR.
I talk about the importance of developing influence. I believe that's what I talked about whenever I was in Hill Country speaking. We were talking about developing your influence and getting more buy-in. And one of the things that I talk about during that is the importance of building a business case. And I feel like that's where most people get stuck on building a business case because the leadership wants to know what's the return? What's the data tell us to make these decisions? And when you know the numbers, you can really create that story with that data. I don't know, for those who are listening right now, like did that just come naturally to you or did you just dive in? What are some, I don't know, maybe share a tip that maybe helped you focus on that to help you create influence in the workplace?
Well, sure, because when your owners or your CFO or any other stakeholders want to help you, but they want to know what's the business impact, they want to know the numbers. They want to know how is
Yeah.
it going to save us money or how is it going to make us money. And so then you just put words around that, and that's just how you build your business case.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's important. And I talked to somebody recently and they're like, I'm not really a numbers person. I said, but then that's when you go find a numbers person and you collaborate together, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness, that is so good. Okay, so I don't know, any challenges that you face today in your world?
In HR, I mean, I think we're in an unknown season in
Mm-hmm.
HR and businesses. There's a lot of changes happening on the
Mm-hmm.
horizon, and we just don't know. So just staying focused, preparing as if, but keep moving forward. And so it's really just the challenge of the unknown.
Yeah. And I think that that's a great way of putting it, the unknown season, because we're all in these different seasons and sometimes the season is, hey, we are in this I don't know, we have momentum, we have this trend or whatever we know where we're going. And then here today with remote work, with mortgage interest rates, with the change in administration, there's a lot of
Right.
unknowns.
Yes.
And I tell people all the time, this is the time to really, to me, this is the time for me to, I call it sowing seeds, and that is dive into learning all I can, dive into connecting with different people, getting their perspectives, and just keep moving forward and not worrying about the things you can't control. What would
Right.
you say to that or add to that?
No, I absolutely agree. I like the seeds example.
Yeah,
And yeah, you just have to keep moving forward, follow
yeah.
ground.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so you also are an incredible volunteer leader at Hill Country.
Yeah.
And so today you're serving as president. You've served other roles as well. Talk about for those listening that I don't know, maybe they volunteer or maybe they're thinking about volunteering. What are some of the benefits? How has it helped you in your career being a volunteer for the organization and being part of Hill Country?
Really, I've had owners of organization just thank me for being a part of the community and representing their organization in the
Mm,
community by my volunteer work. So I really appreciate that perspective. But me as a person, there's lots of opportunities that came, but the way that it has impacted me is that I learned that I had skills that I didn't know that
Hmm.
I had. And also, it's a place for me to use some of the skills that I'm not using in the workplace in a different place. And so I feel like a whole person this
Hmm.
way. And so one of the opportunities is, we're a nonprofit, we're dependent on sponsorship and members. And so one of the things I learned I was good at is just talking to sponsors and
Hmm.
explaining the benefit of sponsoring our organization and how it can benefit them, but also our community and HR leaders. And then I learned, and all of my past work experience was that I always felt like I was great at supporting the owners, and I could definitely make sure that their vision was implemented and supported and make them very successful. But I thought, wow, if I just had an idea or a vision, I would be really great because I know what goes behind it.
Hmm.
And but that's where Hill Country came into play because I started getting these great ideas and started
Hmm.
having these visions for our organization. And so, as an example, we did a membership drawing and meet up at a NASCAR race. So all of
Hmm.
our members came and we watched the NASCAR race together. And then
Hmm.
we worked with one of the race teams where we did a membership drawing and we got a VIP experience, and a sponsor helped us with that. And so I didn't know that I was a visionary, but I'm learning how to be a visionary. And
Hmm.
also, when we talk about leadership and growing in leadership, there's different levels of leadership. I've been a leader since I was 17, but I'm always learning how to be a better leader and a
Hmm.
different type of leader and a different leader for different people and different things. But learning how to be a visionary leader is completely different. And so that's the experience I'm learning that I wouldn't
Hmm.
otherwise have had. But as far as others coming in to volunteer in our organization, there's so many benefits. Of course, you're going to grow in your skills. You're
Hmm.
going to connect with people in similar industries. It's great for your resume. You can get certification credits
Hmm.
as a volunteer leader. And so there's just so much reasons to give back to our local organization and to volunteer.
Okay, I want to dive into this visionary leadership for a second because this is very fascinating to me. I've talked to many, many, many people about some of the benefits, and I hadn't had anybody bring up visionary leadership yet. And I love that. I love everything you said. It gives you, someone once said it's a safe place to try new things. I love that. And there's so many, yes, there's so many different benefits. And I love how you always talk about, you also talked about there's different levels of leadership, and that is so good. But visionary leadership. So before you were a volunteer, do you feel like you had that, or did it like just like amplify the awareness like, oh my gosh, this is how a CEO at a company is thinking. Now I'm here leading our organization, and I'm seeing these things, and now I'm able to bring these back to the workplace too. I don't know, talk about visionary leadership because I feel like you are a visionary. And the reason why I want to bring this up too is because there's probably some people that are not really thinking like that. And all of a sudden you may be able to change the trajectory just by maybe a tip that you give them on the show. Talk about visionary leadership. When did you start noticing that? Was there like a moment and you're continuing to work on it, you said?
It was definitely organic and really it was a safe place, like you had mentioned. Hey, I have this idea, and
Mm.
then my team saying, "Hey, that's a great idea. Let's
Mm.
do it." And
Mm.
so really just having a safe place to ask the questions and implement the ideas and having the support system around. But as far as getting the ideas, I see our organization just like a business. you need to make you don't need to make a revenue, but you still have to raise money, and you have costs, and you have accountability to
Mm.
members and other organizations, and you provide a service, and you're representing the community. And so it very much in different ways, and there's more how I why I see it like a business. And so naturally, with all of my experience, I could easily step in and just see it that way. And so, well, this is a business. What do we need to do to make this successful? And that's when
Mm.
the ideas would just come. But also, what really fueled the visions was the passion behind
Mm.
it. And so I am passionate about providing a place for HR to connect and to grow.
Mm.
We went through COVID where it was really hard to make those connections and find those resources. And so I'm really want to dedicate my time to making sure that Hill Country has a place for people to go or reach out to when they need support.
Yeah, this is so good. I love this. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, I want to talk to you real quick about your safety conference coming up. I believe it's coming up this fall. Talk a little bit about the safety conference, when it is, some of the things that the listeners can expect, and why people might consider attending.
Yes, thank you so much. This is our first large conference at
Mm.
Hill Country. Our half-day conference last year sold out, so we're really looking for a great turnout this year, but it's an HR and safety congress, and we're calling it a congress instead of a conference because it's really a time to draw the line in the sand and bring awareness that safety is important.
Mm.
We're putting the light back on safety. And as an HR professional, safety touches our desk one way or another. And we're going to talk about all those ways that it touches
Mm.
our desk, whether it's workers' compensation or good safety practices, or how do you handle those employees who've had an incident, or how do you handle an emergency situation, or
Mm.
what are the legal components. I don't want anyone to go through the hard things or learn the hard way like I did. I want them to
Mm.
be prepared for something that is coming. And so, but I mentioned we're setting a time apart as far as calling it the Congress. And we are working together and working with cities and counties in our territory. Our territory is all of the cities in between San Antonio and Austin. And so we're writing proclamations to declare time set apart for workplace safety awareness. And our conference is not just for HR. We are providing the certifications
Okay.
that are needed, but we're encouraging risk managers, safety leaders, business owners, and really anyone that wants to learn more about safety, emergency preparedness, lowering risks, and what could impact an organization should something happen.
This is so good. I love all this because I've had several business leaders on the show, and I learned out throughout my conversation that they also had responsibility for safety. And I started
Right.
thinking, we all have responsibility for safety. And so when you said it's really for anyone, I was like, that dialed in. Okay, so what are the dates, and where's this Congress going to be? I love that, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, it's September 23rd, 2025. It's a Tuesday. It's at the City of San Marcos Convention Center in
Mm-hmm.
San Marcos, Texas. And you can fly in from San Antonio or Austin if you're coming from out of town. And you register at hrandsafetycongress.com or hillcountryhrma.org.
I will put the link to in the show notes so people can click on that to learn more and get your team registered for that. How about sponsors? Are you looking for sponsors for that or?
We are looking for sponsors. We have an action-packed day, so we definitely need the support. But our sponsors, not just the stakeholders, and I would say those that would definitely benefit is any organization that wants to reach safety leaders, risk managers, business owners, and HR
Mm.
leaders. So there's a
Mm.
wide variety. But also, this is about change. This is about building a safer workplace, a safer
Mm,
community. And so any organization can support that initiative of a safer workplace and community. And so we're asking for any business in any amount, if you can support us, become a community partner, help us create a safer workplace and community together.
yeah, it's fantastic. So again, I'll put the link in the show notes. I do like to ask this one question though, to anyone that's creating something like this. And I love all of this writing proclamation. I mean, this is fantastic. When you talk as a board and you talk about this event, I'm going to call it an event you're going to be having September 23rd to the 25th. What does success look like at the end of the day? Can you, I don't know, what share what that would look like?
Sure. I mean, of course, the responsibilities of having an event and
Mm,
everything that comes with that. But I would say our success is that should an emergency situation or a legal matter or
mm,
safety issue come up in their organization, that those attending were prepared to
mm,
handle it. And our hope that even out of this conference, that a life could be saved,
mm,
right? Because we're going to offer different trainings on CPR. We're doing during our large break
mm.
session, we're offering a 10-minute breakout on CPR and a 10-minute breakout on how to recognize stroke. And then also working on doing some tourniquet training as an add-on outside of the conference hours, but still on the same day. So we're working on things to help prepare someone should something happen.
This is so good. And I can tell you have a passion for this as well. This is so I'll put the information in the show notes about the HR Safety Congress coming up September the 23rd to the 25th in the city of San Marcos at
Yes.
Convention Center, and it's going to be fantastic. And if you want more information, certainly you can reach out to Anna Marie, and she can help you with that. And I'll have all the links listed. Hey, I do want to ask you one final question before we go to It's Time to Accelerate, and the question's around advice. Have you ever been given any advice? And you've given a lot of great advice today. It was just so good that you just find yourself sharing that with others.
Just say lessons learned, be humble, be just, go through the
Mm.
process.
Mm. I feel like you are very you're filled with humility and like, hey, you know what? I may not know the answer, but I'm going to find out what their answer is, and I'm going to be better from that. And I think that's what you're talking about is different levels of leadership. You have a chance to grow when you're humble and learn from lessons. So this has been so good. Oh my God. I
Thank
told you
you.
time was going to fly. Hey, we're going to shift to It's Time to Accelerate for just some fun questions. And one of the things I know about you is you like quotes. Any favorite
Yes.
quotes that I don't know that inspire you or that you like to share?
Yes, I wanted to share my life quote.
Mm,
I wrote this quote when I was working on my master's degree and I became a short-term mom to my
mm,
niece. Her parents were serving in the military. My 3-year-old niece came to live with me, and I was also serving as a middle school pastor. And so I had a lot going on, and nobody knew how much work it was behind all of these things. And I wrote this quote that's become my life quote, and it is, "Agents of change endure the night for a new day, becoming a door that others can walk through. They may never be famous for plowing the ground or even see the harvest. They are driven by a long-term perspective and an eternal mindset. They are not swayed by short-term discomforts or earthly rewards."
I love that. So you wrote that.
I did.
That is fantastic. Very inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I talk about great leaders or grateful leaders. What are you most grateful for?
Sure, of course, my family, my friends, my faith, but also my health and my great team at Hill Country HRMA.
Mm, you got a great team.
I do.
Oh my goodness, you have a fantastic team. How about what energizes you, like outside of work? I mean, you work a lot, but what outside of that? I don't know. What energizes you? Or maybe it is your work that energizes you.
Sure, all those things, but I like to garden and
Hmm.
I like to weightlift.
Hmm.
And
Garden
that's
and
what energizes me.
weightlifting.
Yes. Yes, I found with weightlifting, it heals the soul. There's an inner strength that
Mm,
comes from weightlifting,
yeah.
and that's become a passion of mine.
Yeah, I tell people so I work out and I do some resistance training usually 2 or 3 times a week, but it's really more for my mindset than anything. It really helps. Okay, here's the final question I have, and that is Anna Marie, 10 years older, is around the corner knocking at your door, and you're going to go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
I'm a D personality, so it's all about decision making, and I'm gonna encourage myself. I'm
Hmm.
gonna say you made the best decisions with the information you had. Well done. Keep running the race.
Mm.
Stay humble, keep running.
I love that. That's a wise 10 years older Anna Marie Prim. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Hey, there's somebody that probably like me. I have not one, but 2 pages of notes. They've taken a lot of notes. They want to learn more. They want to follow you. They want to learn more about the HR and Safety Congress coming up, or they just want to connect with you. What's the best way for them to connect?
Sure. Join us at one of our meetings. You can find those meetings at hillcountryhrma.org. Absolutely join us for our safety conference. That's hrandsafetycongress.com. You can find me on LinkedIn
Hmm.
as Anna Marie Prim.
And I'll put your information in the show notes again so people can just click that link. And if once you click the link and you connect with Anna Marie, be sure and let her know, hey, I heard you on Life in the Leadership Lane. And here's what you said that impacted me. And that will make the connection so much richer. Oh my goodness. Anna Marie, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your perspective. You're doing amazing work. And I can't wait to see what's ahead for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
Awesome. Okay, I can't wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.